My friends, I was saddened and shocked at this deeply offensive video of these belligerent misogynists who are yelling at poor AOC simply because she's funding war and the Azov battalion and defending the establishment. What did she do wrong other than all of those things? All right, here's the reality. AOC got heckled at a virtually empty town hall in the Bronx. Protester says she voted to start this war in Ukraine and will push the U.S. to the brink of nuclear war. Bravo to these activists. Two guys calling her out, saying they believed in her. And now she's become a shill for the establishment, providing funding for war and Nazis in Ukraine. I love it. And so I tweeted this out. In response to these activists saying that, I pulled up a story from NBC News saying Putin's false Nazi claims about Ukraine. And then I pulled up another story from NBC News. The Nazi problem in Ukraine is very real, even if Putin is lying about it. So now they're outright just saying it, huh? Why is AOC, the anti-fascist, the leftist, voting to give money to Nazis? Why is this? Why is she voting to fund war? Now, bravo for these guys speaking out and calling her out, but I think this is the start. We need this. This is probably our best avenue, in that the older generation is going to ignore and probably not care about uniparty voters, Democrats and Republicans who support war. But the younger generation is much more disillusioned and angry about it. AOC just knifed them all in the back by supporting all of this.
I don't know why she is.
Because she's a shill. She's always been a shill.
She's not alone, though. I mean, even when you go back to previous wars under Democratic administrations, when you go back to Kosovo in the 90s, when you go back to Libya under Barack Obama, there was at least a subset. They weren't the mainstream Democrats, but they were a subset of self-styled progressive Democrats who would vote against funding these wars, who would join lawsuits against presidential wars. There really isn't anything like that going on right now. Every single Democrat in Congress voted for the $40 billion aid package to Ukraine. And I don't know if these activists heckling AOC mean that there is still some grassroots anti-war left out there that is just not represented by anybody in Congress. And if they start speaking up, maybe they will be. Or if this is sort of the last gasp of that sentiment.
It's done. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard was it.
Right.
She's
Tulsi
gone.
What
Gabbard.
about Bernie? Did he vote to send all the money?
Bernie
Sanders?
All of them. Yeah.
Bernie did too, huh?
Yeah. Not a single one didn't. Barbara Lee, Ro Khanna, people who are generally very good on a lot of, who've worked across the aisle on things like Yemen, have really been nowhere to be seen on this one.
I think Cortez she's pretty responsive to the crowd. And this guy, this heckler, I don't even know. I'm not sure if heckler is the right word, because he wasn't insulting her. He was just screaming in panic that if she doesn't stop this, that we're going to die in a nuclear war. And the terror in his voice is palpable.
Seems like he's not wrong.
She responds to emotions. So
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not encouraging people to go scream at politicians, but I mean, they're there to represent us. And if they're not representing us, we need to make our voices heard.
Trump-Russia is a big part of this, too. The fact that the whole Trump-Russia narrative became so big on the left that Vladimir Putin is viewed by some grassroots Democrats as the man who installed the Orange Man in power in the United States. So that created a lot of anti-Russia sentiment among people who maybe even during the Cold War, when it might have been more justified, didn't have these types of sentiments. So I think there was more openness to hawkishness against Russia because of domestic political disputes and domestic political tribalism that might have existed otherwise, especially among some people on the center to hard left.
Yeah, a lot of the anti-war representatives got kicked out or pushed out or forced out of their parties, whether it's Kucinich or McKinney. These were individuals that, of course, were speaking out against war, and their districts were moved around, shoved around in a way where, of course, they didn't have a political career afterwards. So, there is a deliberate effort to have a pro-war message, to have a message that supports the military-industrial complex, a major lobby in Washington, D.C. So I do believe that a lot of people who had significant voices are afraid of being pushed out of politics for doing so.
I just had a thought. We say the military-industrial complex. Are there multiple? I would imagine there are multiple complexes. There's one that the liberal economic order is utilizing. Then there must be another one that the Chinese and the Russians are
Yeah,
utilizing.
definitely. That's exactly what they are.
War is a racket.
But then is there someone at the top of those organizations that are capitalizing on both of the complexes? Is it unknown?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think you've got the Western military-industrial complex that loves war because it guaranteed contracts, extremely expensive, extremely lucrative. But I don't think that there's this grand cabal that controls the military apparatus of China, Russia, and the West, and then pits them against each other. It's not like, in Sherlock Holmes when Moriarty's got the book and he's trying to orchestrate World War I or whatever. Because war is money.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think there is somebody at the top. I think the bankers are profiting off of it. The but even then, there's multiple.
They're probably selling weapons across the board. They're playing both sides.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Obama was sending weapons to the cartels. Now there's another story emerging about something similar. The gun manufacturers being accused of sending weapons to cartels. These manufacturers don't care. They just like, give me the money and the weapons are yours. That's it.
Yeah, and I don't think you can't sue the manufacturer if someone does something horrible with their weapon. At least I don't think you can.
Well, they're trying now. Especially
yeah, but we're talking about war even.
Yeah.
It's like if we're at war with China, ain't nobody from China going to sue the United States. What are you doing? We're at war. Like actively killing each other. So I'd like to say that, we're moving away from all this stuff. But I think for a variety of reasons, there are many people very invested in a nuclear apocalypse occurring. Creepy people, evil people, callous people.
Tim, they bought their nuclear bunkers. They want to use them, okay? They want to make sure that their money was well invested, and they want to make sure their safe houses in New Zealand and in Chile are going to be used.
Well, I mean, look, think about it. If you have, if there's a publicly traded nuclear bunker company, and you have equity in that, when the nuclear war happens, that stock's going straight through the roof, baby.
That's money right
That's
there.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you won't be able to trade anywhere because there won't be a stock market, Wall Street, apps, electricity, or food for that matter. But everybody will want what you got.
Yeah, if you bought a nuclear bunker, don't you want to use it? Right?
Yeah.
I think the answer is no.
No, hold on. The most expensive nuclear bunker you buy is the one you buy and never use.
Yeah.
It's that old saying,
But it's insurance. Think of your bunker as insurance, not as a goal, not as a home retirement
Start putting
center.
it on wedding registries and baby gift registries.
For sure. Rent it out.
Bunkers.
You made a good point about the video gamization of war, man. I think there's an older generation that has their nuclear bunkers, and they're like, I'm ready to go. Let's find the next iteration of humanity after this is all done. But then there's these young people that have been brainwashed to think it's a freaking video game.
And
that's why they do the video games.
Yeah. And
like America's Army, that was a specific video game that the United States government used to train kids to want to become troops.
Yeah, like specifically, I'm watching videos from the Russian side, the Ukrainian side, from a lot of the battles that are taking place. The majority of killing and maiming is happening because of drones. The Russians are using Iranian suicide drones that are just flying directly into Ukrainian troops. The Ukrainians are using these quadcopters, and they're just putting grenades inside of them and then having a button that releases them, and they're literally throwing them into the Russian trenches. And there's a whole bunch of DJI drones. There's a video that I saw of a Ukrainian drone taking out a Russian DJI drone.
Yeah.
And when you look at a lot of the footage, it's straight out of Call of Duty. It's straight out of all the video games where, of course, you get a drone and you get to pilot a missile. You get to send grenades off, and it's exactly like all the video games that I played as a kid. And you could see the footage online because I'm keeping track of this. I want to see what's really going on. I want to see who's winning. I want to see who's losing. I really want to get a real perspective of what's happening there. And you have to see these videos. And there's drones, predominantly drones, having huge success in these conflicts.
I had a friend that worked in the military, and he worked with some people that were operating drones. Told me this story where the guy was like, "You got to see this footage, man." The drone operator. So he showed him, and it was the missile or the bomb was dropping on this guy who they thought was working on bombs, and it comes up, and it goes right up to the guy. You see it going right, and the guy looks up, and you see his eyes, and then you realize he's taking a crap. And then the bomb hit, and then it goes off. That's it. But he's like, I saw his eyes.
That's one way to help you poop.
Yep. It probably just went right into the toilet as soon as he saw that. And then, of course, exited his body in every possible direction when it did hit.
Yeah, they thought he was like going to get weapons, and he was just out there
taking a big old dump.
But it's so easy when it's a video game to disassociate.
Yeah, we talked about that a while ago, about Vietnam. How when they send out these conscripts, they would fire above the Viet Cong or whatever because they really didn't want to shoot them. And so they started implementing new... that's when I think they made the targets in the shapes of people and stuff like that. And then now video games have become a component of this. It's interesting because there's a distinction. Video games don't make people more violent. We've seen all the studies on this. Someone who plays a video game doesn't all of a sudden be like, now I want to be violent. But what video games do is they condition you so when it comes to being violent, it is easier for you to pull the trigger. So people who already have those tendencies, when it comes to war and conflict, you're used to playing these games. You have a simulated experience. It's going to have an effect on you.
Dude, have you seen Escape from Tarkov, the game? It's a first-person shooter, hyper realistic, and you fight Russians, man. You hear they're screaming in Russian. It's crazy.
That's like most Call of Duties.
This is new.
Yeah, I was going to say when
Yeah,
Call
it's
of
from
Duty
2017.
In one Call of Duty, there's a scene where you play a child as your city in Syria is literally getting gassed. And you're playing as the child running away from the Russian gas as they sent chemical weapons.
In Call of Duty?
In one of the Call of Duty Modern Warfare games. So you're literally a child running away from a Russian soldier that wants to stab you as there's a chemical weapons attack.
I love how like America's adversaries are always comic book villains. It's like when you watch the media, Vladimir Putin, the evil dictator, murdered children today. And it's like, come on, man. There are adults who understand why war happens. And they want you to believe that every world leader is wearing a cloak and a top hat with a mustache going, I'm going to tie a woman to the railroad tracks. No, he's probably saying, hey, you're pushing your military alliance up upon my border. And it's jeopardizing my country's interests, and I'm not going to let that happen.
And he's probably like, yo, let me ship steel down to Crimea so I can sail it over to the United States and sell it to you. Like, it's so weird. It's so like almost disbelievable that we're creating an enemy out of the Russian Federation when it could be our greatest trade ally and strongest partner, military partner on Earth. It's on the other side of the planet. We could together protect the planet.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.